Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. We get together most weekday mornings at 8 o'clock Central to talk about strategies, tips, share techniques, and success stories. The bottom line is that our 501c3 nonprofit has received a new grant that we'll be talking about today. But specifically, what we have been doing and will continue to do is to help build financial literacy in the small business finance space. And secondly, increase access to capital. A while back, we had received a grant to be able to provide a Shelf Corp to individuals that wanted and needed a fundable business to qualify for funding. The problem with the way that that grant was written, it was a reimbursement. And we've had so many people come to us and say, why can't we get that grant to be upfront so we can eliminate the cost to the participant, or at least eliminate most of the cost? And my response was, well, that's not the way the grant was written. But great news. As of today, or technically yesterday, June 1st, we've been able to sign an addendum to the grant that allows us to use the full grant up front. So we're going to go through that and another important topic. So as we see here in the shared screen on the background, this is an example of the landing page that all of you should have or should be getting. If you're going to be a referral partner, which there's no cost, no contract to sign, if you're going to be a referral partner, it makes sense that you have somewhere to drive your prospects to. In other words, a landing page that then will then put them into a drip marketing sequence, deliver to them education, automatically deliver to them your e-signature contract. So we're going to take a much more aggressive role in encouraging you all, and we'll tell you how you can get one free, but to get a landing page so you're able to drive your prospects somewhere specifically, and then they can receive the drip marketing. But we'll get to that in a moment. We like to start our morning conversations with the most important, most practical, most relevant topic that you and I could convey to anyone else. So it kind of ties into that financial literacy um, perspective. If someone is looking for money to start or grow a business, they need to have a fundable business. So to get business funding, we need to have a fundable business. Kind of sounds obvious, kind of makes sense, but that's not the way that a lot of entrepreneurs think. You'll see it like I do. They'll just say, no, 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 just get me money. I need money. Well, do you have a fundable business? Well, that's an interesting question because they might not know what you know. They don't even know what it takes to have a fundable business. And then, secondly, typically they don't. So often they don't know, but even if they did know, usually they don't. So what you and I are doing now is able to leverage this grant to be able to get them a Shelf Corp up front, and the grant's paying for 100% of the Shelf Corp. Now there is a processing fee, and we're going to go through that, and we're going to talk about how you make money from this new grant as well. But the bottom line is, instead of running into issues where people couldn't afford the Shelf Corp or couldn't get financing, now all of that is removed. Now we do not have to worry about them being able to get approved for financing to finance the Shelf Corp. Now that is removed. All right, so today's agenda, since I know it's June 2nd, but it's our first time getting together in the month of June 2025, we'll call it our June important updates. We're going to cover and make sure everyone's crystal clear on this repositioning of the Shelf Corp to make it much more affordable for clients and still equally or even greater in profitability for you. So we'll talk about benefits to them and you. And then we'll also revisit the Reseller Marketing Program, RMP, whereby everyone gets a landing page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot over here on the screen. Hopefully it changed from what you view as well. So do you all see 509pacific.org now on your website or on your screen, my shared screen? Excellent. Okay. So we've added new information at the top. This wasn't here last week, for example. So this is some basic information about what we're talking about in terms of the new Shelf Corp proposition, which we refer to as the Express Shelf Corp. We're adding express as the adjective to differentiate it from the prior model. So here on the website has some introductory information, but more importantly, we're going to go down here to the click here, and then that's going to open up our agreement. So this is what your clients will receive. So we're going to get you all set up with a landing page. They'll go to your, so you'll explain, you'll educate, increase awareness. You'll drive them to your landing page. They're going to get texts. They'll get some emails too, but primarily they'll get text on a reoccurring basis. And several times during that drip campaign, they'll have a link to your agreement. So it's going to come up. Your agreement's going to look almost just like ours, of course, but it's tied to you. So what we found is that the contract packet, if you will, should have three elements. And we do all that. We build it out for you. You don't have to learn how to edit. We build it all out for you. So the first element of the contract package will be a flyer, and this is an updated flyer referring to the Express program. Notice the word Express. So we've made the updates and made reference. Now, there is a processing fee that the client has to pay. So they do not have to pay the $10,000 now for the Shelf Corp. They don't have to pay it later. There's no what ifs or if you don't do this, then it triggers. There's no strings attached. The grant's paying for it up front. But they are going to pay a one-time processing fee because for a couple of reasons. One of which is we need to legally transfer this business to them. So we've got to be able to cover our legal costs, and also it shows consideration. That's a legal term, but it shows consideration. But regardless, Shelf's coming to them free. There is a processing fee, and we'll talk about how you can alter that to build in a margin. But we'll get to that in a moment. So the first element of the contract packet that we'll set up for you all on your landing page will be the flyer. Now, it won't have our information at the bottom, of course. So the flyer's first. Then we also created an updated comparison sheet. So it properly reflects this proposition. We want to be crystal clear. We want to be so transparent that no one can come back with any beefs or gripes. So with that, we have relabeled what's included and then also clarified, hey, there is a processing fee. Now, of course, if you want a different processing fee, which we'll talk about in a moment, then we'll need to change that. But the bottom line is there's an updated flyer that we need to make sure all of you have so you can edit it if you're not using. If you're using a landing page, we're really doing all the development for you. But regardless, we want to make sure you have access to the new flyer, to the new comparison sheet, and then lastly, the new agreement. So the new agreement, similar to before, but it's whereby it's referenced as express. And so it is providing them what we're promising. So everything's consistent. So what we market, how we describe it, and what we deliver is the same, because we don't want anyone coming back saying, oh, you misled me. You said it's something different. So the Shelf Corp comes free, but there is a processing fee, and you can introduce that as you want. If you want to cover the processing fee, you can, but that would come out of your pocket, so probably not. So we'll come back and talk about how you can mark that up. So everyone should be getting a new flyer, a new comparison sheet, and a new editable agreement template. How do you do that? You're going to just simply text the support line and say, hey, I need the new packet, and we'll send it over. But again, if you're going to use, and we're happy to provide that and there's no cost, but if you're going to be using our free landing page, which comes with the reseller marketing program, those documents will be less important because our team's actually taking those, editing those, and building those into your drip sequence automatically. All right, so let's go back to the landing page. Let's pull back up the notes. So what are the changes that you need to be aware of? What has changed other than the grant covering upfront the entire cost of the Shelf Corp. What's different? Not much, not much. And so we can even go back to the comparison sheet and use that. So just like you might use this to educate your prospects, I'll use it to educate you. So do we still help them get funding? Do we still guarantee a minimum of 100,000 if they want our help? So remember, there's two steps, right? You first have to have a fundable business, then you can go to business funding. So if they don't have a fundable business, this is going to be a no-brainer way to go. We deliver the Shelf Corp to them in about a week, and then we go to phase 2 or step 2, which is the funding. If they want our, because they don't have to use our funding, but if they want to use our funding, then we guarantee the minimum 100,000. So check. Business plan still included, no change there. We do all the work. It's developed, it's got their name, their information in it. They don't have to spend any time or effort. It's delivered. Financials, again, same thing. We put them together. They're all assembled. They're ready. The client doesn't have to put any effort into it. We provide them the commercial address, the business entity, the EIN. They don't have to put any effort into that. So that's the same. We still provide collateral. Now, the amount of collateral is different, but we're still providing collateral, free accounts receivables that they will have on their balance sheet, which is up here on the financials, and we can liquidate it if they want. They can use that for collateral. So that's still included. It's just, it's a different amount now. They still have access to the opportunity fund if they want for those daily deposits. And again, it's much more affordable than it was before. Now, theoretically, you might say, well, before they had no out of pocket, wasn't that better? Well, sure, with approved credit, it was no out of pocket. But a lot of you were bringing people to the table that didn't have approved credit. So then the financing terms that they received wasn't that attractive. Either the interest rates were higher than they want, or they didn't get approved for as much as you were trying to sell it for. So yeah, they will have an out of pocket now, but the Shelf Corp's free. They're going to pay the processing fee plus whatever you want to add to it. So let's get to that second point. So we've covered in brief the client proposition. It's largely the same, but what is different in terms of, from your perspective, if you're a distribution partner? Well, before you could charge or mark up the Shelf Corp as much as you wanted. Same now. If you wanted to change the $4.99 and make it some larger amount, from the informal discussions I've had from most of you have suggested that you're going to probably price it at $999.99, which puts $500 in your pocket up front, and then of course you're getting the 5 points on the back end. But you can charge whatever you want on the front. But what we're not going to do any longer is facilitate financing to buy the Shelf Corp. We're going to facilitate financing for the funding afterwards. But our experience has been the type of financing approvals that these people are getting from a personal perspective have not warranted the effort, the time, the energy that's gone into it. So you can change this number to whatever you want, but we need at least 500 coming to us. We don't need at least. We need 500, $499.99 coming to us. Anything above that is your markup. It's your profit. You could collect it from them now. You could defer it until later. That's up to you. But our cost, all we're asking for is just covering the processing fees. Anything you want to charge above that is all yours. All right, so let's see. What questions do any, because I think this is one of the most important elements we got to make sure we vet through. Does anyone have questions on the pricing? So we're giving the Shelf Corps away for free because of the grant. However, there is a one-time processing fee that's due at the time of contract. And then third bullet is you can change that processing fee or the pricing however you want, whatever you want to make it. You could make it $1 million if you wanted to make it $1 million, but we need our part to implement. Anything above and beyond that's between you and them. Now, a lot of you, I think, are setting up Stripe accounts. So let's say that you're wanting to charge them the normal of $999. So you charge them $999 on your Stripe. You accept a Visa, MasterCard, whatever you want from them. You get the money. You get them under contract using the new editable agreement. and then you send us our portion. Whatever else you have above that is your money. So Kenny, I don't understand your question. Maybe you could ask it differently. Mike is asking, can you charge more? And that's exactly, Mike, what I'm communicating. You can charge whatever you want. You're a reseller. You'll change the comparison grid, you'll change the contract, but you can charge whatever you want. The Shelf Corp itself is covered by the grant. So we don't need money to pay for the Shelf Corp anymore. That's a big deal. We do need the processing fee. So anything above that is yours, Mike. You can charge them more now, you can charge them more later. That is up to you. So we're not going to do the buy now, pay later for any new clients because that was a weekly payment plan that some of these folks couldn't afford. And getting people into, and we've learned that in retrospect. So if they can't afford it, it doesn't make sense to set that up. So there's no financing needed for a real low amount. So whether it be 500 or 1,000 or whatever you want to charge them, we're not going to facilitate financing for the Shelf Corp purchase. We'll obviously facilitate financing for the business funding afterwards. Mike's asking, can you all charge more and then facilitate the financing for the clients? Sure, whatever you want to do, that's your call. So let's say you still wanted to charge 10,000 and you're going to facilitate financing to get them that 10,000. That's between you and them. Right? We don't need money to pay for the Shelf Corp anymore because the grant's paying it up front. All we need is the processing fee. All right, so if you are a reseller, then hopefully you'll get the landing page. We're really encouraging because you need to have the RMP. Let's bring that up. So number 2, the reseller marketing program, if you'll refer in 2 people for the new program, then we'll waive the normal refundable deposit. So normally there's $1,000 refundable deposit for us to build your landing page, to build your e-signature contracts, to build the drip campaign, and to manage it. So normally there's a cost. We don't want you to pay. So if you can refer in 2 of these deals in a given month's time, so month of June right now would be the most relevant, then we will gladly waive that $1,000 refundable deposit. So we're not trying to get money out of you, but we can't just say we'll give everybody a free landing page and free packet because we know that not everyone produces. That's a poor use of our resources. Let's see. As far as the processing fee, again, you can set it what you want. Carlos, this is what we need to cover our legal cost, our documentation cost. It's just like, Carlos, if you gave me a piece of real estate or I gave you a piece of real estate, we'd have to go to the title company and have the real estate deeded in the new owner's name. Well, when we're actually transferring a business, because this is transferring a business and the business assets, it's a Shelf Corp, there's documentation that's needed. So that's all that we ask for. For Marcos is asking about the back end. So yes. So with the RMP, and we can pull that up. So what's included in the RMP? So we're on number 2 right here, right? So of course you get a landing page. You also get the drip marketing campaign. So once someone has gone to your landing page, they don't just get a one-time communication, they get a drip over time. And also in that drip is composed of educational, promotional material to get them more knowledgeable and move forward, but it also includes an e-signature contract. And when we build the e-signature contract through your Shelf Corp, it's going to be set up like this. It'll start with the flyer, won't have our information. We'll change the pricing as needed. It will have the comparison grid, but we'll change the contact information and pricing as you need. And then it'll have your agreement with your information. Because as a reseller, it's like white label, private label. So we will, let's go back. So it's going to include the landing page, the drip marketing, the e-signature contract, and it's also going to include the 5% performance fee and the 5% overrides. So the 5% performance fee is anyone you bring through that signs up, then you get 5% of their capital raise. Let's say it's $1 million capital raise, 5% of $1 million is, of course, 50,000. So the client will pay a 10% performance fee. Half of that goes to whomever brought the client in, and the other half goes to whoever's receiving the override. So for example, let's say Gabrielle brings in Marcos. So Marcos brings in a client, Marcos gets the performance fee, Gabrielle gets the override. But these are all elements of the RMP. Now you might say, well, Tom, you said earlier there's no contract assigned to be a reseller. Isn't this in conflict? Well, you don't have to do the RMP. None of this is required, not at all. If you just simply want to go to 509 Pacific, become what we call a grant coordinator or reseller, no contract assigned, fill this out. We'll send you an email, which we call the implementation packet. It will have the editable version. So we'll provide you right away the editable version of the flyer, of the comparison sheet, and of the agreement. And you're off and running, and you don't need us. You don't need to pay anything. No contract to sign. However, if you want the RMP package, then there is a contract to sign, because we want to make sure we're clear. We're promising to pay you 5%. And with overrides, we're promising to pay you that. So when there's things that we're promising to you, we want to have it in writing to make sure that we do what we promise. When you just come over here as a grant coordinator, we're not paying you anything, right? You're paying us, remember? Because as a grant coordinator, these people are signing your contract. We provide you the editable template. You're setting the price at whatever you want, most likely $4.99 or above. So anything above that's your money. So we're not paying you as a grant coordinator or reseller. You're paying us because you're the one promoting, getting the client under contract. But when it comes to the back end, we are paying you. Therefore, we want to have that in writing so there's no question of what we promised to pay. So that's the reason. Let's go back. So Gabrielle's asking a question that's off track, and that's my fault. Let's go back. You determine the price. You're the reseller. You determine the price. You determine the price. From what we need, the grant covers the Shelf Corp completely now. Completely. So there's no payment later, there's no deferral, there's no strings attached. It's great. What we need is just the processing fee to cover the processing to move the Shelf Corp into the client's name. And what we have is a one-time $499.99 processing fee. So no, there's not more later, there's not more weekly, there's not more monthly. That's it. It's one time. One time. One time. Make sense, Gabrielle? And these questions are great because we want to leave from this with clear. Okay, financing. So Jennifer's asking about. So once we have delivered the Shelf Corp in about 7 days, then if they want us to, they don't have to, then we'll work with them on financing, which is what this is referencing. So once they have a fundable Shelf Corp, we know that we can get them financing. We don't know if we can get them financing without a Shelf Corp because they're missing what? They're missing a fundable business. If they already had a fundable business, then they wouldn't need to really enroll. So let's go ahead and address that. So what happens if you have someone that already has a fundable business? So go to 4weekfunding.com, another one of our resource sites. Scroll down. We had a conversation, training on this last week. This is the build option. So the Shelf Corp is the buy. The client is buying from you a fundable business. So if they don't want to buy, they can build. The build is on the 4weekfunding.com website. But the point specifically is if someone says, oh, no, I already have a fundable business, great. They can skip the buy or build. They can come right over here to number 8, and we can get right after. We can go ahead and go to funding right now. But most people don't have a fundable business, so that's what's missing, and that's what we started with here. You've got to have a fundable business or you're not going to get business funding. Farah asked about prior clients. Yeah, so we can't go back and change prior clients. So whatever a client is under now is what they're under if they're under contract. Now, yes, so let's just leave it at that. So this is new, started technically yesterday, June 1st. We did some preliminary outreach. I think we ended up with 77, 78 people who have already enrolled in the first 24 hours, which is awesome. There's a huge demand, right? A lot of people need money. A lot of people don't have a fundable business. The problem was a lot of people couldn't afford a fundable Shelf Corp before. Now pretty much anyone can. I mean, if they can't afford 500, they're having some real solvency issues. So great point, Fair. So this is going forward. So it's a new agreement that they'll sign with you. We'll provide you the editable version. You might say, "Oh, I don't have the editable version." Understood. Text the support line and say, "Hey, I need the new packet," and we'll treat you like you're a new reseller, just meaning we'll send you the updated packet that has the editable flyer, editable comparison grid, and new editable agreements. So going forward, this is what we're going to do. I don't think it makes sense to go, and that's what Troy's asking. I don't think it makes sense to enroll new clients in the old program. And we can offer a grace period, of course, if you had someone that you were discussing in the old platform, but we don't want to go chasing after financing for these people to pay for the Shelf Corp. Why? Because a lot of them don't get approved, or the approvals they get for a personal loan aren't very good. And so then they look at us like, well, that's a shitty offer. Well, I can't help that it's a shitty offer. It's based on your shitty qualifications, right? So we want to eliminate barriers. So if you want to offer the legacy program in the interim, that's up to you. But you need to bring the money to the table, because the buy now, pay later financing, anyone that's on it will continue to service it. But there's a lot of people that are defaulting on the buy now, pay later. When you take a group of people that haven't been responsible in general and paying their bills in the past, we were very ambitious to think that they would pay their bills now. To no surprise, a lot of them are not paying their bills now. So we don't want to create hardship for clients. If they can't afford the $499, I don't know that they're ready to have a fundable business. If they already have a fundable business, great. Nothing up front. Just come right over to 4weekfunding.com, go over to the Ocho, as France likes to say, and we'll go right to funding. All right, so let's see if we, Jennifer's asking about the charge for financing. So the answer to that is the same as it's always been. When we do financing for clients, there's a 10% performance fee, and we just discussed where it goes. Half of it goes to you, half of it's paid out in override. We're not making any of that 10% performance fee. We wouldn't even include that if we didn't need to satisfy you all, but many of you said, hey, you want to make back end money, so that's where it comes from. Benjamin asked a really good question. How do you get paid for referrals without the landing page? You do not need the landing page to enroll clients, right? So what would you need? You would need the materials, which we provide for free. So how do you get the materials? You start by going over to 509 Pacific, filling out the grant coordinator form, and this triggers us. There's 2 videos they want you to watch, which are here, 1 and 2. But then that triggers us to send you the implementation packet. You may say, I already have the implementation packet, but it's outdated now. Well, fine. Then just text us on the support line, and we'll gladly send you the new implementation packet. No cost, no contract to sign. That way you can go ahead, Benjamin, and sign people up without getting the RMP. It's just, I think if you're serious, you're going to be really at a disadvantage if you don't have a landing page. That's normal. It has the automation, because not everyone's going to sign up just off the first point of contact. And most of you are so busy, you're not going to be diligent and continuously touching them. And with the drip campaign, we address that. So again, the RMP normally has $1,000 refundable deposit that's paid back once you run your first client through it. However, we're willing to waive that, bring 2 deals in to the new Express Shelf Corp, and we'll waive that refundable deposit. But you don't have to have the RMP. You can just get the documents and do it on your own if you want. Let's see. Mike's asking if there's limitations. Well, I think when you're talking to prospects, you might want to say, hey, this is a limited time promotion. Normally people had to pay for 10,000 for the Shelf Corp up front, but we've got a grant for a limited time that'll actually cover that. The only thing you're going to pay for is just a small processing fee. If you create some urgency, I think you'll close more deals, but I don't have any inclination to think that this is going to end anytime soon. So there's not an expiration date or a maximum. And then, as we've said many, many times, Mike, we need about 7 days to get that Shelf Corp transferred over to them. So that is throughout our materials. It's what we've covered before. So we need about 7 days to get the Shelf Corp over to them. Then we can move into phase 2, which is the funding. So yes, Yaman's bringing a point. So again, the collateral has changed when we switch this over, and you'll see it in the agreement. So now there's less collateral than there was before. We're still including free collateral, which is great, but there's less free collateral. So some of you say, oh no, isn't that going to keep the client from getting funded? No, because if they don't have enough collateral between what we're giving them and what they're bringing to the table, we can transfer additional collateral over. So there's not a shortage of collateral. We can get them millions of dollars of collateral so they legally and ethically qualify for larger loans if needed. But we'll determine once they're on board, do they have enough? They might have enough. They might not need more from us. All right, let's see. And Adrian's bringing up a great point. So the RMP, and let's pull the notes back up, is important. So the only way to get the landing page from us, you can go develop your own, is by enrolling in the RMP. You want the RMP, text us and we'll send you the link. The only way to get the drip marketing campaign is through the RMP, where people that come through your landing page. So if you want that, sign up. If you want us to develop your e-signature contract so it's stacked like this with the flyer, the comparison sheet, and then the agreement, we do that for free. The only way we do that is through the RMP. And I'll tell you, that change alone will increase your conversion rate noticeably. If you just send them the agreement, I know it's almost semantics or maybe it's psychological, but if you didn't give them this first and this second, if all you started with was this, I promise you'll have like half the enrollments versus stacking these documents in your contract packet. Notice they have to initial off to acknowledge it, and then they have to initial off to acknowledge it. So this is proven not to manipulate people, but to increase conversions considerably. How do you get that? Through the RMP. How do you get the back end fee and the overrides? RMP. So if you want those benefits, those come through the RMP. You might say, oh, I can't afford it. I'm not asking you to pay anything. Bring 2 clients in to the new Express funding program. Sorry. Within a 30-day period, and we'll waive that normal deposit, which was a refundable deposit all along. You might say, no, I want to have this to get started. Well, then fine. What are you going to do? You're going to text us and let us know you want it right away. We'll send over the RMP packet because we want everything that we do in writing so our promises are clear and you hold us accountable. We want to be held accountable to do what we promise to do. Greg again's asking about prior clients. Prior clients are under prior contracts, prior financing. Don't interpret this. So this is going forward, technically from yesterday or today or whenever you implement it in, but this is new. So this is new for new clients because it's a different contract, right? The flyer's different, so it doesn't match the old. The comparison sheet's different. It doesn't match the older situation. The contract's different. It doesn't match the older situation. So we don't want to mix and match. So if they're under the old, they need to stick with the old. Do they want to come back and get a new as well? They're welcome to do that. All right, so hopefully that explains. Kenny's asking again, but I thought I went through it. So here are in summarization, the benefits of the reseller marketing program. If you want to see it all in writing, happy to send it to you. No cost, no obligation. We'll send it over to you. Just request it on the support line. But there's one way to get these deliverables, and it's through this agreement. That's where it sits. Okay. Doug's worried about the collateral difference, but I don't think you should be, Doug. So I've told you a couple times, there's less collateral with the Express program than there was under the legacy program. But what we realized, we were wasting a lot of collateral because collateral comes from whatever we provide the client plus whatever they have. Well, a lot of those folks, they had their own collateral. So we were giving away our assets unnecessarily. That's wasteful. So now we still provide a base set of collateral, but if they need more, it's not a problem, Doug. We can transfer more, but we'll do it in a very calculated way. How much is their collateral shortfall if they have one? And then we can get them the extra collateral, but we can't continue to waste resources when it's not needed if they already bring enough collateral. All right, let's see here if there's any other questions. Joseph's asking kind of the same thing. So this is a new grant that went live. Now we've been working on it for 60 days because many of you were just insistent. Hey, if we got a grant to reimburse them for the shelf, why don't we get it up front? It's not the way the grant was written. Now it is as of June 1st, but it's under a new contract. It's a new contract that has these terms, so it has to match. So just because someone signed up in the past, that doesn't make them on the new contract. They're on the old contract, right? Tram asked a great point. So some of you have had the RMP previously. And so, yes, if you have been active and in good standing at no cost, we'll go in and upgrade because it's really a complete rebuild, but we'll eat the cost. So if you've been on the RMP and you've been in good standing, we're happy to go through and modify because it's not just the words on the landing page, it's the drip campaign, it's the agreements. But yes, we're happy to go through and edit those and essentially update your RMP if you're already on it, if you've remained compliant. All right, let's see. Jennifer wants to be a reseller. Well, that's right here, right? 509pacific.org. If you'd like to be a grant coordinator, reseller means the same thing. Watch the 2 trainings, Jennifer. Fill this out. We'll send you the implementation packet. And you're in like Flint. Very easy. Let's see. Jay asks, what if they want to build a fundable business, not the Shelf Corp? And that's fine. That's what I talked about. And you might have typed this, Jay, before I got to it. So if someone wants to build, we use the 4-week business funding program. Takes longer, right? Because it's a custom build. We clearly state what we do in each week of the 4 weeks. And they can participate by clicking on this green button here. So 4weekfunding.com, click on the green button. But I don't think that's really what you're going to want to see. I think most of your folks want convenience. They don't want to spend time building a business plan because on the build, they have to be involved, right? Because it's their ideas. Now with the Shelf Corp, it comes pre-built. So that's the benefit. Not only is the Shelf Corp cheaper and faster, probably the main selling point is it's easier. So, all right, let's see what else we have here. How long does it take to get the RMP up and going? A couple days. Sometimes it depends upon how many new enrollments we have at a given time, but we'll turn it around as quickly as possible, Jennifer. Gilda asked, how much will it cost to get a fundable business? That's a really good question. So, Gilda, that depends upon the reseller that you're working with. Let's say that you come to us, so you're not going through a reseller. We've covered it exhaustively, how much does it cost for a fundable Shelf Corp? Right? Now the grant pays the 10,000, so that's taken care of. All they have is a processing fee. So I think the answer to your question, Gilda, is here. But again, if you're a reseller or working with a reseller, this price is subject to change because the reseller may price differently. All right. Joseph brings up a really good point, and his point is, well, what if someone's charging more? Won't they see this and feel cheated? No, and here's how to do it. So again, you'll get editable flyer, editable comparison sheet, editable agreement. Let's scroll all the way down to Exhibit E. So Exhibit E are the free resources that the client gets. So they get the business entity and the EIN, they get the business plan, those things we talked about. But what you can do to justify a higher price point is add a number 6. And let's say that you add business coaching services or business consulting. Some of you are accountants, so you might offer free accounting services. Some of you are attorneys, so you might offer a certain amount of free legal advice. So that's a great point. If you're going to increase the price, the best thing to do is to come down to Exhibit E, and we'll do it for you if you're doing the RMP. But if you're doing it yourself, go to Exhibit E, click enter after this period. It'll create number 6, and then add something that you're doing above and beyond. So if they came back to you and said, well, Joseph, you charged me 1,000 and I could have got it for $499. You'd say, oh, no. There's a difference, right? What you saw was just the base package, but what you got from me, Joseph, has these extra sparkles and whistles. See the point? Christopher asked, can it be offered globally? Yes, there's not any U.S. restrictions. Carlos asked, can he apply? Well, sure. I mean, if you want to participate, what are you going to do? You're going to go over to 509 Pacific, Carlos, and click here, and it's going to bring up the same screen we're looking at. You just actually complete it instead of just looking at it. All right. Well, I think we covered a lot. There's a whole bunch of questions, and we're already 13 minutes over. So we'll get back together tomorrow, and we'll have part 2. But at least today, what we've accomplished is a good start. We've got everyone aware. Great freaking news. We got a grant now that pays for the Shelf Corp up front. These clients don't have to come up with cash or financing for the 10,000 or whatever you were charging anymore. Great news. All they're going to do is pay just that processing fee, which is very reasonable. Now, if you're going to go jack up the processing fee, maybe it's not as reasonable, but that's up to you. If you keep it at $499.99, make your money off the back end. Super simple. If you want to bring it up to $999, make $500 up front. That's going to be pretty easy. But as you get more expensive, you're going to really need to justify down at the bottom where we said on Exhibit E what else they're getting, because you're pumping up the cost. But the easiest to add is business coaching, business consulting. So that has a value. That's big business. You could add that, and then that would create extra value between you and the client. All right, with that, we'll get back tomorrow. If you need anything, best thing to do between now and then is text the support line 903-347-8042. We'll see you back tomorrow morning, and we'll hit part 2 tomorrow, which is really going to be just digging in to your questions, answering those, because I've now presented to you the update. Let's get you a landing page with automation. You can review the whole packet on 509 Pacific. Click there and it'll open. If someone already has a fundable business, they don't need that. They go to number 8 on 4-week funding. If they want to build versus buy, they go to 4-week funding and click the green box, which is right here. And we'll be back tomorrow for part 2 for continued discussion. Thanks, everyone. All of our past trainings are up on YouTube. See you tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.